We're rolling.
Good evening. Welcome to the Sunapee School District School Board meeting, Wednesday, April 6th, 2022. Exactly 6 p.m. We're in the Sunapee Middle High School Gymnasium. Appreciate the three from the public in attendance. We'll start a roll call on the far side with Tara Gear. Work our way around, please.
Tara Gear, Director of Student Services.
Cameron Messenger, Student Representative.
Sean Moynihan, Principal, Sunapee Middle High School.
Megan Reed, Assistant Principal, Sunapee High School.
Edward Anderson, School Board.
Andy Nichols, School Board.
Karen McCall, School Board.
Scott Wixman, School Board.
Jesse Tyler, School Board.
Russ Holden, Superintendent.
Kelly Wessels, Business Administrator.
We have the stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We're going to have a moment of silence for Billy. Would you like to say a couple things about him, just so that if everybody didn't have the grace of him in their lives?
Sure. Back in February, folks know Billy Royce, district employee for 20 years within the district, beloved, cherished, passed away from complications due to an ongoing heart issue. He'll be missed. He's loved, and he'll be definitely never replaced.
We'll take a moment in memory of Billy. Missed by a lot of us. Great person. To start the meeting off, we want to go through approval of 3 sets of meeting minutes. So I'm looking for motion for the March 9th board meeting minutes, please.
Make a motion to approve the minutes of March 9th, 2022 school board meeting. I'll second that motion.
Thank you. For discussion, any corrections or comments? Okay, all in favor of approving the March 9th, 2022 school board meeting minutes as noted, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye, unanimous, thank you. Looking for a motion for the March 9th, non-public meeting notes.
I'll make a motion to approve the March 9th non-public meeting minutes.
I'll second.
Thank you. For discussion, any comments, corrections? All in favor of approving the March 9th, 2022 non-public meeting notes as noted, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Unanimous, thank you. Rounding third, looking for a motion to approve the minutes of the March 24th, 2022 CIP meeting, please.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes of the March 24th, 2022 CIP meeting minutes.
I'll second.
Any comments, corrections? We'll talk about the project
Talk about that
later in the informational. So, all in favor of approving the minutes for the March 24th, 2022 CIP meeting as noted, please say aye.
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 Thank you for that. Agenda review, it's a good agenda. This is a meeting where we have a lot to cover and a stack of action items. This is April. I don't have anything to add. Do you have anything, Kelly, or do you have anything on the agenda? Okay, we're going to move on to public forum in accordance with policy BEDH. So you can step to the mics and e-mic on the side. Hi, Laura. Welcome. Thanks everybody for being here on Wednesday night. It's great to have the public engaged. We appreciate the folks that watch this at home and email us questions. If you would like to speak, you have 4 minutes. You can go to the mic and share your thoughts. If you don't mind introducing yourself with your address, so everyone knows who you are, that would be great.
Laura Piazza, 503 North Road. I just wanted to bring up, I'm not sure if this is the right form or if I should just email you, but I was wondering if there would be any consideration for spraying the playground area for ticks. We do that in our yard. I'm someone who suffers with long-term consequences of Lyme disease, and I know how important it is to keep population of the TIC's about 90%, and so it's pretty significant, and it's pretty cost effective, so I was hoping that you could take that into consideration.
Great, thanks for being here, thanks for raising that. Can you speak to it, or?
We'll take it over.
Yeah, so, absolutely.
We may already do it.
Laura,
Yeah,
can you
sorry.
email what you use so that we can look at it? Thank you.
Yeah, I can't speak to it, but we can check with Matt and absolutely take action, and Russ will look into that for you. Thanks. This is the beauty of public comment. Sometimes we can get a nudge on opportunity. Other voices? Seeing no motion, thank you very much. Next up, we have the Sunapee Parent Teacher Organization, Mindy Atwood, regarding pledge collection. Floor is yours.
I understand the school board had asked for a little bit of an update from the PTO about the pledges. There were approximately 11 pledges made for a monetary donation, totaling just under $6,000. There were many other pledges to pledge support, so it was a more generalized fun effort for pledging, pledge to speak to your neighbors, pledge to come and vote, etc. But what I wanted to share with the school board today is just a reminder about what the language on the pledge form said. So the language is exactly, I pledge to make a financial contribution to the project. The SPTO Building Committee is collecting pledges and donations for the proposed school project contingent on the passage of the 2022 warrant article in support of the school loan. We will be in touch with you on March 9th to collect your pledge. So the pledge intent is to be in support of the school loan, and it was not the school loan that passed, it was the lease, Article 7. And so as such, those pledges are, here's the bad news, technically null and void because they were made to support a school loan. However, if you were to look at the list of donors, as I have, as John had, you can see it's, I don't know what I would call it, a target-rich environment. They're like, I'm on the list, I pledge. Probably I'm good for that, even though the scope of the project that I pledged for is different. So it would involve reaching back out to all of those folks, acknowledging Article 3 didn't pass, Article 7 is, what's happening, this is the lease, we've gone with the lease option, would you like to make it on this pledge? But technically those pledges are null and void.
Questions or comments?
I'd like you to reach out. That's my opinion.
Okay. Sure. I think that the PTO would be open to having that conversation with the school board. I would suggest that you just reach out maybe to the PTO president or Caitlin, who couldn't be here tonight because it's her birthday and you don't have to come.
I'd also suggest maybe we could use it for something other than the lease, something that we didn't get, in the package. So it's a little bit extra bang for everybody's buck.
I agree.
Playground
Yeah,
or something?
Yeah, exactly. Like, I don't know if maybe this is a discussion where we bring the SPTO back to the next subcommittee meeting and we talk about that, like
Right.
what's kind of the next in line thinking, because maybe we work towards something like that. And there might be some other fundraising options or things, right, that we can
Right.
sort of brainstorm about how to work towards the next in line project.
All sounds great.
Yeah? I don't-
Sounds like a good way to do it.
Okay.
So I think probably just to reach out to the PTO is your next step.
Sounds good.
Sounds good.
Okay?
Super, thank
Perfect.
you very
Thank
much. Thanks for all the work that all of you do. School updates, starting with the elementary school.
Walter's not here tonight.
Oh.
Sorry he came down with a headache and he was concerned, so he stayed home. He's gonna get tested just to be on the safe side. I don't think I need to go any further than that. Things are going pretty well for an April. Hoping the weather continues to get a little warmer.
Yep,
Lots of good stuff.
okay, we'll keep trucking, thank you. Hope he feels better. Middle high school updates, please. Student.
So overall, the student body has been a little on the tired side. It's the longest stretch of the year. We have 8 weeks with no breaks. Very work intensive, but student morale has been high. despite being a little tired. We're looking forward to April break. Sports has started up. The baseball and softball teams have just gotten back from the Cape last weekend, and it was a very successful scrimmage environment where they worked on their skills. The first track meet is coming right up, and the track team's looking very strong. The seniors have their senior project presentations prepared, and they are looking forward to that night where they share with the community what they've been working on. Juniors, the SAT scores are coming back pretty shortly here, so we're starting the college search. We've been looking on job internships, their possibilities, and some job shadows so we can get into the fields that we are looking forward to. Just recently, I believe it was yesterday, the Save a Life tour. So the first period we spent watching a video on how important it is to not be distracted while driving and how dangerous it can be to be distracted or be impaired while driving. And on top of that, we also had a simulation where you put on a VR headset and it simulated you being impaired while driving. And the whole driving setup, and it really just showed just how dangerous it can be. And then there was another situation where you're also in another simulator and you're handed a phone and you're asked to text and drive in the simulator. And it just goes to show how dangerous it can be, and it was a great opportunity for students to be made even more aware of how risky driving can be if you're not following the rules of the road. And lastly, prom committee is wrapping up and finalizing. Tickets are going on sale, and we're looking forward to that in the first couple weeks of May.
Just a quick question for Cam. I understood the content about the driving and texting and drinking was pretty intense, and the parents had to give permission for you to, so just curious, do you feel that the way that was approached reached our student body in an impactful or effective way?
I believe it did. There was a very powerful video that we watched, and it really, just being in a simulation where you could see just how easy it was to get distracted and how difficult it was to just be in an environment where you're not responding normally, it really had an impact on the student body, and it really showed how dangerous it can be. And there was a poster where we wrote our names and signed it saying we pledged to drive safe. There were wristbands, and it was just a great activity that really did reach the student body, and I believe it did make an impact.
Great, thanks for the insight, being the student voice, appreciate it. Sean?
Cam did a really good job of hitting kind of what we've been doing. So yesterday was a neat activity. It was sponsored largely by Dartmouth Hitchcock, and was made available to our 10th and 12th graders. Also kind of ties in where we'll be leading to our alcohol awareness activities coming up in the next month through our health class. So, kids can't be too safe this time of year, so hopefully they're driving safely and making good decisions. We had recently the murder mystery, so we're able to have our theater production. Kind of as we spoke about at our last meeting, it's feeling good to get some normalcy back. So as Cam said, we're going to have our senior project night April 14th. We're going to have the scholarship dinner at 5. We're going to have the presentation as a group, in the gym like we've had in the past, and then the individual presentation starting at 6:30. So kind of like the senior project that we knew and loved, that we haven't been able to quite do the same way for the last couple of years. So we'll be doing that the 14th. We're also having prom will be coming up, and so last year we were able to have prom, which was nice, but it was last year's prom with lots of rules. So this year it's going to be prom with fewer rules, which I think the students will like. Because last year, if you got within a certain amount of space, you had to wear a mask, and if you were outside and you were distance, you didn't have to have masks. But of course, this year we won't need to do any of that. The students have been busy. We're getting into that testing time, so the juniors took the SATs. They're going to be doing an advanced placement test coming up pretty soon. So the school will certainly be busy, but it's a good busy.
Great, thanks for the insights, appreciate it. I'm glad things are well and kids are going to have some normalcy with some of the programs, and is it 6 o'clock for the public for the senior projects?
So dinner's at 5, the gallery is at 5:15, and then the presentations are at 6:30.
Okay, just because in the old days, the pre-COVID days, it was quite a social activity for our little town, to encourage that. All right, thank you very much. Superintendent update, Mr. Holden, please.
Sure. Again, I'll try to be brief. Kelly and I have been, a lot of the month, both March and April, really trying to get the contract with the EEI and the financing in shape. We hopefully will present that to you tonight, hopefully for approval, to be able to move forward. It's hiring season, and we had some retirees, so we're looking to fill those positions. We have a few more openings than we usually do, I think, in Subcommittee. Part of that is just because of, again, folks retiring and moving forward. We have our net cast, if you will, advertisements have been out, Ed Jobs, nationally on School Spring, local papers, state papers as well. We have a good pool of candidates right now. We have a teacher opening. Right now we have 11 applicants there. 16 applicants there, 10 for principal, and we have an interventionist that has right now 8. We are also looking for a physical therapist. We have a couple applicants there, and a financial person. We're still hoping to get some applicants in that regard. But we are in the middle of hiring season. We are being real aggressive with our hiring practices. As most of you probably know, we're trying to hire anybody these days. It's not an easy task. People are moving pretty quickly. We're going to be real aggressive. We're going to start interviews the week before April vacation, with the idea of trying to finalize those when we get back from vacation and have names for you in May to fill those positions.
If those not close to the front seat of it, hiring for businesses, schools, or anybody is historically challenging and only going to increase with the lack of young people replacing the many waves of retiring, the great silver tsunami or the great leave. So if you have multiple candidates for some of those roles, there's lots of local businesses that wouldn't believe you're able to do that. So in context.
You know, a big piece of that, I think, is for us is having a contract that's in place and approved by our voters. It's very helpful.
Yeah. All right. Kelly, anything? You good? All right, thanks for the update. School board topics. So what are you hearing, seeing, anything going on that you want to share or talk about?
It's been quiet lately.
Yeah, very different email volume than before the election, and seems to be less social media activity as well. So it's generally quiet as we go towards this kind of working meeting with all the different action items.
Yeah, maybe I guess just because the Croydon situation is gaining so much, has so much attention right now, maybe, I don't know, for us, if you have been in contact, maybe have any updates on that and what the impact to us could be, or where we're at with that.
Croydon, let's get into that. Thank you for raising that. I was thinking, let's go right at that with the action item. We'll do for the tuition rate.
Okay.
If that's cool.
Yeah.
Directly affecting what's going on in Croydon and our ability to have 10 or 11 of those students come back to us. So thank you for raising that. Anything else? Hearing in town, questions, challenges? Okay, it's been fairly quiet like it traditionally is. We can jump right into action items. So looking for a motion to approve the proposed certified teachers for 2022-2023 school year.
I'll make a motion to approve the certified teachers for 2022-23 school year as listed in our meeting materials.
I will second Scott's motion.
Any discussion, commentary, questions? Okay. All in favor of approving the proposed certified teachers for 2022-2023, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Thank you, unanimous, appreciated. Looking for a motion to approve the proposed certified administrators for 2022-2023.
I'll make a motion to approve proposed certified administrators for 2022-2023.
Second.
Thank you, Carrie. Comments, questions? All in favor of approving the proposed certified administrators for 2022-2023, please say aye.
Aye.
All right. Motion to accept the administrative resignation, please.
I make the motion to accept the administrative resignation.
I'll second it.
All right. Questions or discussion? Comment? All right. Thank you very much for your service. All in favor of accepting the administrative resignation, please say aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Looking for a motion to approve the proposed graduation date.
I'll make a motion to approve a graduation date of Friday, June 10th, 2022.
I'll second.
Any discussion? We'll hope for the good weather we've been graced with.
Are we gonna do it outside again?
The plan right now is to do it at the mountain outside. That's what the will of the senior class was, so
That-
put it to that.
That's
so.
pretty cool. That works
Yeah.
well.
Yeah.
It's a little more festive than stuffing everybody in the shirt.
Yeah, they were in different places. Someone at the Sharp, someone, but, you know, I met with them, they were really good. I said if it was like 50-50 or 55-45, I would make the decision. I didn't want them to kind of be at odds with each other, but if there was a clear consensus, we would go with that consensus. And to me, it was clear enough, so we went with that.
Yep, something positive to carry forward as a new ritual that goes out of COVID. You don't get to say that very often. It's a lot of fun up at the mountain, and thanks for supporting that with your responsibility. So, all in favor of approving the June 10th, Friday, June 10th graduation date, please say aye.
Aye.
Be a fun night in Sunapee. Looking for a motion to approve the proposed student handbook.
I'll make a motion to approve the proposed student handbooks.
I'll second it.
All right, in discussion, I'm gonna put you on the spot. If you could do your yearly insight and really, in this extended reading project, call out anything of notable change or anything for sort of the yearly maintenance. But is there anything that you'd want to bring to the attention to the board or the community with what's a pretty big project?
Since the student handbooks, the athletic handbooks, and program of studies, what I'll try to do is give you the major change in that, if that works for you.
Yeah.
Okay. So there were no changes to the athletic handbook. It's exactly the same. There were minimal changes to the student handbook. We did make some changes to just the language regarding our harassment policy. There was with some changes in the policy and the guidelines from the state, it was a little bit inconsistent in a few places, so we did our best to just make it as consistent as possible. But most of that was just wording switches to it. The big change, I would say, would be the program of studies. And so we've put in kind of a caveat or a way that people can get a half of their phys ed credit through athletics. So if they do 3 sports over 2 years, and they'll be able to get a half a credit. It starts with the freshman class. There's a reason why it starts with the freshman class, and we want to be fair to all the students, and some students right from the beginning have prepared their schedules with the understanding they needed to get that full phys ed credit. So we want to be fair to somebody who would kind of set up their schedule with that idea. So all of a sudden, the senior who didn't have a half a credit, we didn't want to make that a possibility for them, with the understanding that we do allow for independent study credit. So if you had a senior who all of a sudden needed a half a credit and phys ed didn't fit in their schedule, we would make a way for that to happen. So it'll be interesting to see. I think we're going to start to do this a little bit more. You know, I've reached out to a couple of schools who are doing extended learning opportunities and ways to get credit to do that. So I think there will be some students who will access it. It will give them a little more flexibility with their schedule. But our students really do like to have full schedules, and we really do expect them to have full schedules. So I'm not sure the overall huge impact to that. But it's a pretty major change that you can use your athletic participation to get a high school half a credit.
I think it's great with our oddly high extracurricular and sports, participation rates, which are kind of amazing. And the trick of juggling all the schedules with the AP and the other alternatives that we're able to provide. I think personally this is a great amendment, and it'd be interesting to see how many areas would take advantage of it. Anything else you want to point to? Anything else you want to?
I had just one thing that jumped out. Our, the term dates for Andy and I need to be updated.
Thank you.
I missed that.
And Sean, on the sports thing, is it like, do they have to do 3 different sports? Is that the requirement, or is it?
Yes, yeah. And so the purpose, again, is that, our phys ed, one of the goals is to expose them to a variety of things.
Yeah.
So if all of a sudden, let's use basketball, right? So they play basketball for 3 years, that's really not exposing them to a wide range of activities. So that was why the focus was on a wide range of sports. We really didn't put a lot of focus on like to what level they got to. So there's some places have wording of varsity participation, and we intentionally left that out because the goal isn't to get to a really high level, it's to get an exposure to a wide variety of
Yeah.
activities. And the other thing is we want it done before senior year. So that's one of the caveats that we put in there because frankly, I worry for kids at graduation. So each year there's kids, we're getting them to the finish line, and one thing I don't want to have is all of a sudden you needed that baseball to get that credit, and all of a sudden you broke your ankle, all these different things, and so the requirement is that it's completed before the senior year.
Great. All right, so all in favor of approving the student handbook, please say aye.
Aye.
You kind of strayed into athletics. Do you have anything specific on the athletic handbook that you want to?
No changes.
Okay, so just to do this properly with process, it's its own action item, so we're going to keep this moving. Can I have a motion to approve the proposed athletic handbook?
I'll make a motion to approve the proposed athletic handbook for next year.
Discussion, question? None of you will look at me. All in favor of approving the handbook, please say aye.
Aye.
Love rules, let's follow them. Looking for a motion to approve the 2022-23 program of studies, please.
I'll make a motion to approve the proposed 2022-2023 program of studies.
I'll second it.
For discussion, any insights from administrators or superintendent you want to add?
No, just commend Sean and the team of teachers, Mrs. Frederick and Alyssa Krause for looking at this, taking this on. This is really our first, I think, really major push at looking at ELOs. It's going to do a couple of things. I think we talked a while back about being a viable option for our kids. I think ELOs continue to make public education a viable option for our kids. This specifically may help free up some time for kids and schedules to take other things. And so I think it's an opportunity where public education is looking at, again, how to be at the table to make sure that we have a good menu of things to offer kids that keep them attracted to us.
Yeah, and the ELOs, if you're not used to the acronyms, extended learning
Extended
opportunities. So
learning.
it's learning without being in rows and desks, butts and seats. It's sort of the great world beyond where there can be a variety of options that better cater to the interests and development. So that's good. Anything principals want to add? Anything about it? Seeing none? All right. All in favor of approving the proposed 2022-23 program of studies, please say aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Looking for a motion to approve the proposed tuition rate for 2022-2023 school year.
I'll make a motion to approve the proposed tuition rate for 2022-2023 school year.
I'll second Ed's motion.
All right, so for discussion, this is of keen interest to sending districts, and to go back to Carrie's school board topic, definitely a lot of press, regional, even it looks to be like the start of national press, about one of the districts that have students come to us, Croydon, where there was a vote to cut the school board budget in half and offer receiving schools $10,000 for tuition. So, do you want to pick it up from there, Carrie, with what you had for thoughts? I'm trying to sort of set the table if people weren't aware of it.
Yeah, just if Russ has had any, if you've had any contact with the Croydon district, and just, I guess, what the potential impact looks like for us, and what are the next steps for Croydon, and timing-wise, again, for us.
Sure.
What does this all mean?
It's interesting, so I guess I'll address your questions before I step on a soapbox, and I'll try not to step too heavy on the soapbox. So this will definitely have a financial impact. If this was to happen, and let me preface that by saying, you would need to agree to change your tuition rate to the $10,000. And I certainly wouldn't advise you to do that. Right now, if we were to do that with our current enrollment of Croydon kids being 10, that's $50,000 loss in revenue. Soapbox a little bit. If Croydon was to be able to get this passed through the Department of Education, the State Board of Education, this potentially is a game changer for public education, period. This then allows a free and appropriate education that's guaranteed by the Constitution of New Hampshire to every child in New Hampshire to now be a rate set at $10,000 along with some sort of tutoring, if you will, because that's what they're proposing, to be considered a public education. My understanding, and Tara, I don't know if you have more on this, but there's going to be another hearing. There's going to be another vote in Croydon. I don't know how that happened. I don't know the legalities of what made that work, but good for them. I think there are 2 points here for our community. One, the importance of being in attendance at a deliberative session, at a town meeting, and making sure that the voices of the community are heard. The entire community, not the voices of 20 people. And I think the second piece for me would be, I spoke with the superintendent over there. He asked very, very bluntly, with a smile on his face, are you lowering your rate? I said, that would be a discretion of the board. I would advise him against that. He then informed me, I believe, that there'd be a letter coming from their school board, which we have not received. So, in a nutshell, for me, this is an attack on public education. I'm a little disturbed with the fact that the Commissioner of Education has a hand in this. It's upsetting because it really undermines what public schools have been trying to do in the state and gives an out to charter schools, to tuition agreements, to really almost closure of any small towns or even big towns in the state to say, here's your check for $10,000. I know our cost per pupil is $30,000. We're going to save 20 kids, and away you go and enjoy your public education or your free, appropriate public education. So, again, I would advise against this. It's a $50,000 loss right now. I'm happy to hear they're taking a new vote. I'm sure it'll be well attended, and we'll see how that shakes out for the town of Croydon.
So next steps for us then, we're essentially waiting until after their next public meeting before we would potentially get any tangible action.
Yeah,
Right.
So I don't think we have any tangible action.
No, I mean, but if this sticks,
Yep.
then post that May meeting, I think it is, then we would have to have some discussions.
There's a series of consequences.
So I think what I think tonight you're setting your tuition rate.
Yeah,
And
no,
when
of
you
course.
set your tuition rate, if Croydon walks in and says, we're giving 10, if my child wanted to come to Sunapee from Croydon, it would be up to me as a parent to come up with the other 5.
Yeah.
If it helps for the discussion, in the past, we charged the average rate, and there was a decision, it was like 7 or 8 years ago, to go with more what is closer to the average, so that we weren't way above what other districts were charging. So the short way of explaining it for us and other districts is adding a few more students to an already fully staffed district doesn't add a significant cost to pay for us, where we have almost no revenue coming in for a variety of reasons. It provides revenue with a low investment because we already have enough room in our classrooms and enough room in our buildings. So our rate last year was $14,000 for K-8 and $15,000 for 9 through 12, comparing against Kearsarge, which has $22,574 for middle school, $21,677 for the high school. The administration is proposing the $15,000 this year, so up $1,000 from last year for K-8 and $16,000 even for 9 through 12, $1,000 up from last year. So it's competitive, it's in line, it's not the lowest, it's certainly a lot lower than Kearsarge District School, but it does incrementally increase the charge that we are responsible for approving or not. So if it helps, since we're in discussion, I think incrementally raising it, and then hitting kind of that sweet spot. You know, it's above Leominster and Unity, below Kearsarge. I think that it makes a lot of sense, and I think that beyond the revenue that we have rare sources of, we get an enrichment of our school because it's accessible financially for what the districts that are sending a lot to their students, setting aside the recent development in Croydon. So we're able to have a variety of students enriching our population and also bringing revenue. So I'm supportive of it for those reasons. And I'm not trying to sway the board. I'm giving one opinion out of 5. So if you feel differently or similarly, please voice it. So I think this is a worthwhile topic, especially in these times, to each give an opinion. You don't have to speak as long as I did. I go on too long. But Scott, what are your thoughts with raising the rates to 15 and 16,000? Do you support it or want to?
Yeah, I'm supportive of that. I feel like the folks that are making this push, I think, are comparing tuitions to those of private schools, if I'm not mistaken, and private schools don't have the burden of supporting special education. So I think that's the disconnect. And we have that burden and that expense, as do other public school districts. And the other districts that, Croydon sends to, like Newport, I mean, our rate is in line or close to what Newport does, I'm assuming. Is that true?
Yeah.
So,
Just
to me, that makes sense.
another way to look at that, Jess, because I think the way you said it, I got a little confused. On the paper that's there, the Croydon, Goshen, Unity, and Leominster, those are their tuition rates that they are giving. Kearsarge doesn't tuition kids. So if you were to go to Kearsarge, that is their cost per pupil, and that's what they would charge you for tuition.
Yeah, I didn't say that. That's what my intent was. So just for clarification, Croydon, until the meeting last month, their rate was that they would pay towards sending a student was $16,079. If they were going to send the student to Kearsarge, Kearsarge charges around $22,000. So if the parent has to make the difference, the school doesn't pay it. We are charging what their rate was. The new rate would be the 16 for charging them. So that is that if parents want to send, families want to send their students to Sunapee, we're not charging in addition to what the district will pay in their agreement. So I hope that's more clear. I didn't say that effectively. Thanks for the nudge.
And is my sense of that right, Russ, in that they're not looking at scenarios where special ed has to be paid for, and that's a burden that we all have to share in public education. If
So,
someone's going to go to a public, school district, is that?
Yes, in our tuition, in your policy regarding tuition students, there's a specific section that's cut out on top of special education classes. So this is a base cost, and then they're also responsible for additional special education costs, which is outlined by our special ed director. But every district is responsible, sending district would be responsible for their own tuition or services of special ed, whether they pay us to do that or they bring in their own services. It's a lot easier for them just to pay us to do that.
Right, the flat fee versus, so this
Croydon
is,
Croydon would just say, right, no matter who you are, what you are, here's your 10 grand.
so that doesn't accommodate some students coming, and there's a whole wave of students the public needs to acknowledge, the COVID kids that didn't have the resources they needed. There's a high need for emotional wellness and special ed that's waving through national public education. It's here, and it's only going to get bigger in the years ahead. So when you look at this rate that Croydon is paying with the current rate as listed before things happened with the 10,000, that's $16.79. Any special ed services that education provides, that district will be responsible on top of that. So some of the students that come from Croydon, if they're special ed, that is in addition to the 16. That makes sense.
And I guess just one other clarification too, Russ, if the vote doesn't get reversed whenever this next meeting is, isn't there then additional legal hurdles that have to be addressed, not by us, but by Croydon before it even comes back to us?
Right, so again, the Constitution of New Hampshire states you're eligible to free and appropriate public education. The State Board of Education would need to sign off on their plan on how that education is being provided. My assumption, if the state board did sign off saying, here's your 10 grand and here are these learning pods, micro schools that go along with it, the tutoring, that lives up to what the public education, free public education looks like. My judgment would be that someone's going to challenge that legally to determine if that is truly a free, appropriate public education.
So this could go on for
This
a
could
while.
drag for a while. The good news is that going back for a vote, again, I'm not in that community, but I'm going to assume that community maybe had a good shot across the bow, and there'll be a lot more people attending that meeting, and we'll see what that outcome is.
Seems like a lot of moving parts that need to shake out before it even appears on our radar screen.
Yeah, again, I don't think there's any need for us to do much of anything except to hold tight and see how it all kind of plays out.
What are your thoughts, Gary?
So just so I understand, so with the Newport rate for Croydon, that's at what is the 17, 70, 80, and then Goshen being lower. With our tuition rate, it means that if somebody from Goshen, for example, wanted to come here, they would have like 300 and the little bit that they would have to out of pocket to send them here, right? Am I
Yeah.
understanding that right?
Correct.
Got it. Okay.
Andy?
No, I think it's time that we went up $1,000.
Yeah.
I think it's appropriate.
Great. Ed?
I'm in support of the increase.
You were one of these kids coming here, weren't you, when you were a few years ago?
A few years ago, quite a few years ago. 30.
All right, well, I think it's important that we don't always agree, we apparently agree on this topic, but I think it's important that the community is reminded that there's 5 voices, and it's good to hear where everyone's at. So, all in favor of approving the proposed tuition rate for 2022-2023 school year as listed, as proposed by admin, please say aye.
Aye.
Wish the best for public school Croydon. Looking to approve, a motion to approve the proposed lunch and breakfast prices.
Make a motion to approve the proposed lunch and breakfast prices.
Second it.
Any discussion or question? All right. All in favor of approving the proposed lunch and breakfast prices, please say aye.
Aye.
This is one of those meetings that makes absolutely clear, people thought the school board was exciting and glamorous, that it's a lot of policy that we're here for and procedure. It's important though. Looking for a motion to approve the Subcommittee Finance Committee 2-signature manifest of approval.
I'll make a motion to approve the Sunday Finance Committee 2-signature manifest approval.
I'll second.
Any, did you want to make any comment or any insight, Kelly, on?
So I have to do a PLE, it's called a paid lunch equity tool for the DOE. Oh, the 2 signatures, it's us reading.
That's all right, 2 signatures.
2 signatures. So typically we need a quorum of 3, but if you guys agree to just having your finance committee and 2 people sign, then we have legally satisfied the quorum.
Right. With very, this is looking short-term at the year ahead together, serving before the next election. I think we do very well with very full careers that aren't always in days in town, getting the manifest, getting things signed. I think we do very well, but this would make it a little bit more straightforward on the finance committee being able to just, our faith in them to be the quorum of 2.
It would be just for the manifest too, when it comes to the state reporting and the DRA reports, we won't be allowed to do that. It's just
Right.
manifest only.
Just, yeah. Any thoughts, concerns?
Or is formalizing what we already do, basically.
Basically, yeah. But it's good to have it motion, make it official, and have discussion, so. I can't remember if I got motions.
Yep.
I did, I got 2 motions, sorry. So I should have a snack. So all in favor of approving the Finance Committee 2-signature manifest approval, please say aye.
Aye.
All right, looking for a motion to approve the appointment of Sunapee School District Clerk.
I'll make the motion to approve the appointment of Sunapee School District Clerk.
I'll second it.
Discussion, thank you very much, Jen Correa, this is awesome. Anything else? There's a risk of similar sentiments from the board. All in favor of approving Jen Correa as the Sunapee School Board District Clerk, please say aye.
Aye.
Thank you very much for serving, Jennifer. Looking for a motion to approve the appointment of Sunapee School District Treasurer Brian Garland.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Brian is the Sunapee School District Treasurer.
I'll second.
He's 9 years on the board. I think he's gonna have a pretty keen eye on things. Yeah, back in the game. We appreciate his service to the community. All in favor of approving the appointment of Brian Garland as Sunapee School District Treasurer, please say aye.
Aye.
Thank you, Brian. Thank you, Jennifer.
Just, can I just interject a small piece?
Yeah.
Just for the purposes of that understanding, Brian was a write-in, received the most write-in votes. There was no candidate that ran. Brian was a write-in, received those votes, and accepted the position.
That's a good clarification.
There was no one that, the write-in on the district clerk did not accept the position, which then allows you to appoint. Jen Correa came forward, she said she'd be welcome to serve, and you just appointed.
Yeah. So, no official raise of hands for the ballot, but we pointed out them with a question mark, and they said yes. So thank you for their service and stepping up to that. Informational items, capital improvement subcommittee project update. The floor is yours.
Sure, so we, at our last CIP, we did a walkthrough of the elementary school, did a on-site review of the scope, looked into different areas to move the modular classroom, so it would make it easier to transition in the future, you know, so that we wouldn't have to have the modular, because the problem with the modular classroom is the availability, so we probably won't get them one by the time the school starts. So we'd like to put it in a different position so that it's kind of parallel to the school lengthwise, which it would take a little bit of earthwork, but not too much to make that happen, which is towards the teachers' parking. And then also the thought process on that was that obviously we don't have to hurry up and try to find a home for, you know, we have to move those kids out, find a place for them while the new one gets set up and transition,
Yeah.
which is gonna be if it's during the school year, it's gonna be quite a task to handle. So this way, they could even finish the school year off if they had to, while the other one's getting all the, you know, the water and sewer and all that hooked up to it, the electricity. So then you could transition in the summertime, which would make it a lot easier. And also, what that does in the future is, if we decide someday to fix our parking lot, we could do that, because it gets the modular out of the parking lot.
Right.
Which is a huge benefit for us safety-wise in the future, you know, at some point. Did some scope review with the biomass people. We are gonna have to do a little bit of, you know, retro work inside the school to be able to get the piping into where it has to go. But, you know, just reviewed a lot of areas where we have really low headroom downstairs, the best way to get lighting in there, just some technical aspects of some of the challenges that are gonna be to renovate without really renovating.
Right.
You know, this bottom line, we're trying to get new infrastructure with the least amount of disturbance because we don't have any money to spare. So, but I think it was a very productive meeting and I think it went well. Sorry.
You second his motion? Things to add for your perspective on it?
Yeah, I missed the meeting.
Oh, that's right.
I was not
Sorry.
there, so I can't.
But I don't know if you want, is this a good time to start bringing up maybe the contract on it, because I know you reviewed that.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So why don't I set the stage, and Terry, if you want to take it from there. So, as I said, we've been working with EEI regarding the contract. We shared a contract with the board, had some great feedback, came back from the board. We've shared that contract with Primax, our insurance carrier, with our attorney. And then, on the recommendation of Kerry, said, would you reach out to Gordon, our old project manager from a few years back, and see if he'd take a look at it. He said he'd be happy to do that with no charge. So we've had 3 different sets of people put eyes on it. We've given all those recommendations back to EEI. EEI has been more than gracious enough to make those additions and subtractions and changes. That's what's in front of you on your table. I know through email you gave me permission, because we were worried about interest rates, to move forward with a contract with them, but I would ask you tonight to approve that contract if you're feeling comfortable, so that we can start that process. Then we'll also talk to you about financing in a minute. Terry, I don't know if you wanted to add anything to that.
Yeah, no, not really. I mean, I guess, we include a lot more detail in the scope of work than what was originally presented to us, which makes me a lot more comfortable, and I fully trust EEI and everything they're doing, but business is business, and I want to make sure that we're protected, and so I think they did a good job, building out a lot more detail around the mechanical, the units that we're going to procure, and a little more specificity there. Just that isn't otherwise in the line items associated with the cost. So I'm happy with what they've come up with.
So the community, just for insight, is, Andy is a builder and is using that experience and to go into the design and the navigating this project and the gotchas. Carrie has extensive contract experience that were immediately helpful with the good faith contract proposal by EEI, but it was great to leverage, to have within the board somebody with that level of experience and expertise, and that through all of the other steps that caused to get to a contract that you feel more comfortable with. So hats off to both of you. This is what service in the community can be. This is a great example of leverage people's expertise and experience. Greater good for the community, so I'm very appreciative, because I do not have that. Most people don't have the experience that you do, so it was really cool that triggered, and you asked the right questions, and then the actions by everybody involved. And thank you to Gordon for volunteering his time as a support of public ed in some of these schools. Anything else, Scott or Ed, any questions or comments?
I guess follow up on maybe one of your questions was, as we go through this, there's going to be different checkpoints where more than one set of eyeballs will sign off. It's good, and the payments that go along with that progression.
Correct. There'll be well, there's a leasing piece to that over there. There'll be a billing component that EEI will have based upon phases of the project. Mike is, in essence, somewhat of a project manager, because the subcontract work around him. Both Matt, myself, and Kelly will continually attend construction meetings, give input along the way. I feel like we have, as Carrie said, a real good relationship with Mike and EEI. They've been on the hook now for 2+ years, having done some real nice work for us. They are anxious to get started, and yes, I think we'll have an opportunity to have lots of input, even with the CIP committee, if available, depending on when those meetings are, to join those.
Yeah, I think it's great, just like with everything else, with the manifests or whatever, having more than one set of eyeballs at each checkpoint before we make, the next payment is a good plan to me.
Yeah, so usually the way it will work in that aspect of it is they'll submit a payment rec to Russ, and I'm assuming probably, we'll all look at it, it's on the CIP, and we'll have to approve it. So basically what it's going to do is it's going to tell us, there's 10% of the lighting that's been done. So we'll have to do a walkthrough and just give it that double check to make sure that, hey, if we're paying for the AC units and they're stored on site in Connex, somebody's got to do inventory. But, so there's that opportunity. It's not just they hand us a bill and we pay it. We've got to go through quite an approval process.
And they're using, and I'm going to get the acronym wrong, but it's the like association of,
Schedule of values.
the schedule of values, yeah, it's a standardized,
Yeah,
it's a
it's the
standardized
American
one.
architect.
Yeah, so if you
architect
take, if you go take a look at one of those, looks like it's pretty,
I have all the programs if you guys want.
yeah.
It's an AAI program,
Yep.
so it's pretty,
It's good, I mean, it just tells you where you stand relative to your costs,
Absolutely.
right? Like what's gone out, what's remaining,
yeah.
there's a bunch of things that
Yeah.
it'll track.
Good.
Exciting.
Good.
Good.
So, yeah, if you could take some action on that contract to allow me to get that to them signed tomorrow.
Make a motion to approve the contract with EEI for the Sunapee Elementary School project.
I'll second.
We did the discussion beforehand, but processes, do you have other comments or discussion? All in favor of approving the contract as proposed, please say aye.
Aye.
Is that fast enough, Bill?
That's great, and we're in information, so you actually did it the right way, so that's okay. So on finance, so we have a contract now with EEI, that's great, we have to figure out how we're gonna get them paid. Kelly's been real busy the last 3 or 4 weeks, so we've contacted 8 different financial institutions, 3 local banks, then we have 3 JP Morgan, some bigger banks from our attorney, we reached out to them. And then we had the MLC from Vermont, the original price that we used when we were doing the warrant article. And so based upon that, the 3 local turned us down, the 3 more national turned us down, and then we had 2 remaining. The 2 remaining were the MLC and TD Bank. End of last week, we got a preliminary quote from TD Bank that said they could come in about a 2.8 over a 10-year period compared to a 3.2 that we were getting. And that would have been about a $300,000 savings in interest. We were very interested, obviously. We worked real quickly with TD Bank, tried to get them some information that they needed, that they were requesting. They sent us a copy of a draft lease agreement, what that would look like. They came back to us probably at 4 o'clock this afternoon saying, here's some information that we need. Things are moving quickly. If you can get us this, we think we can lock you in somewhere between May and June. Our current rate now is 3.28. So their rate was actually higher than MLC. In the process of dealing with MLC, when we got the original rate, when we got the 2.8 rate from TD Bank, we went back to them and said, could you do anything to lower their rate? MLC came back with a 3.1. We think, Kelly and I at this point would advise you to take MLC at a 3.1. That rate is locked into us to April 21st. We have to provide them with some information. Again, this is something that they do. They can move pretty quickly, get us to close on this. We're locked in for a 3.1 over 10 years. That's the best interest rate we're gonna get. If we wait to May and June, we're told the Feds are moving more in May. And I would just worry about missing an opportunity. So I felt like we've done our due diligence. We've reached local, we went a little more national. We had a couple of competitors. We did the competitive thing. We got our rate lowered a little bit. And we're back where we started, which I think we felt good with going in. We've gotten real good feedback from other banks that said, no, they're a good company, they're reputable, they do a good job. So my recommendation would be for us to you to make a motion to allow me to sign a contract with MLC, Municipal Learning Leasing Consultants, for financing the Sunapee Elementary School lease project.
Yeah, I know when I talked to Mascoma, they said to sign it because that was a really good rate for that lease.
And you have that contract as well on your desk. That also went to our insurance carrier, and our insurance carrier has given us some feedback, and they're willing to make some adjustments, some very minor things. In our insurance, thank you.
I'll make a motion to approve the MLC